The arrangement of the chambers inside each animal is unique, and the sound they create like a fingerprint. These calls are Parasaurolophus' primary form of defense. They are communicative social beings that live in herds. Parasaurolophus have learned there's safety in numbers.
An isolated Parasaurolophus would be a dinosaur in trouble. It's going to have to look out for predators on its own, and therefore, a lone individual might do its call to say, I'm alone, and wait to hear for other members of its herd to make the corresponding call.
This tactic is still used today on the plains of Africa.
If you look at various species of plant eaters, they live together in groups, and if one of them spots a predator, they can whinny or hoot and let the rest of the herd know so that they can keep on alert, or if the predators are right there, they can all break out into a run and run away from the attacker.
Parasaurolophus' ability to communicate complex messages is a tremendous defensive advantage. Using its sensitive hearing, these creatures can detect a predator far off in the distance, then send out an alarm call to warn the herd. More effective still, low-frequency sounds with their long wavelengths travel much further than high frequencies.
These are kinds of sounds that can be transmitted over very long distances.
This extremely low-frequency sound is called infrasound and can travel for miles.
You can produce a noise so low and so deep, it not only goes through the air, it goes through the rocks and through the soil, and you pick it up in your feet. Elephants do that, rhinos do that, hippos do that, crocodiles do that, alligators do it. They produce infrasound.
But for a Parasaurolophus, these calls can be used for more than just communication. Low-frequency infrasound can put up an aggressive form of defense.
Infrasound is a weapon. You can scramble the brains of your enemy with a blast of infrasound. If you have 100 duckbills, 1,000 duckbills facing the same direction, producing high decibel sounds, that's a wave of energy that could knock over a predator, or at least discombobulate it, scramble its brains.
Despite packing a deafening secret weapon, a Parasaurolophus, like other plant eaters, knows that the best way to stay alive is to keep predators at a distance. But in this prehistoric world, giant carnivores with ultra-keen senses and powerful razor-sharp weaponry are everywhere. Throughout the Cretaceous, hungry carnivores patrol the landscape. They are the most terrifying predators the world has ever known. Their plant-eating prey, though, are well-armed and well-armored. They don't give in without a fight. But prehistoric herbivores have a problem. They lack the brain power of the carnivores that hunt them. Sauroposeidon's brain is so tiny, it can barely process any information at all. So just how did these intellectually challenged giants cope in such a dangerous world?
There has to be some sort of device that compensated for this diminished capacity to make individual choice. And it's got to be society.
Sauroposeidon defend themselves against super predators by working and thinking together.
So you have group intelligence, group memory, group decision-making, replacing individuality.
Living as a group is vital for Sauroposeidon's survival. Individually, their huge size is a powerful defense. But sticking together makes these leviathans close to indestructible. Keeping a herd of 50-ton animals filled up, however, means traveling vast distances, grazing a territory covering thousands of square miles, and moving a mountain of flesh requires sophisticated coordination.
One of the curious things about sauropods is that they did have a swelling in the spinal cord in the neighborhood of their pelvis. This was sort of like a second brain to help control the back half of the body.
It's called the sacrolumbar expansion, a bundle of nerves which acts like a primitive brain controlling the movements of the legs and tail. The brain in a sauroposeidon's head is simply too small and far away to coordinate its front and back legs. So like a prehistoric fire truck, a second brain operates the back end of the animal.
The reasons why animals like Sauroposeidon have an enlargement in their hip is because there's actually a lot going on back there. There are lots of muscles that are in the legs and also muscles that are going through the tail.
The primitive brain in its pelvis keeps Sauroposeidon's legs and tail in sync with its body. Without it, they could never have grazed over such large territories. Possibly, they wouldn't have even been able to walk at all. This tiny bundle of nerves, weighing just a few ounces, allows herds of Sauroposeidon to rule the Great Plains of the southern Midwest for almost 15 million years. Another plant eater couldn't appear more different. It's small, weak, and highly intelligent. But like Sauroposeidon, Parasaurolophus live in herds. They stick together and are constantly on the lookout for threats. But for Parasaurolophus, there's a problem. Their eyes are on the side of their head, so fields of view don't overlap. This leaves a blind spot dead ahead, a possible opening for an attacker.
They couldn't see directly behind themselves, and they actually would have problems seeing directly in front of themselves.
It's almost a different visual world than one that we can imagine.
But Parasaurolophus have this problem covered.
When you've got multiple Parasaurolophus living together, that means multiple eyes to scan the horizon. And if one of you is feeding, munching on the plants on the ground, the other can keep its eyes out, looking around, keeping an eye out for a tyrannosaur.
But not all plant eaters in the Cretaceous live as a group. Ankylosaurus are loners. They depend on a powerful tail club and steel-like body armor to defend themselves. Without the herd to watch your back, Ankylosaurus has to watch its own. That's a job made even harder, as its worst enemy, T-Rex, can hunt under the cover of darkness. Fortunately, an Ankylosaurus has another effective weapon in its armory, a highly refined sense of smell.
The nasal region of Ankylosaurus and its kin is one of the most specialized parts of its anatomy.
For an Ankylosaurus, a T-Rex's distinctive odor is a dead giveaway.
This is an animal for whom the sense of smell was more important, potentially, than the sense of vision.
Ankylosaurus's nasal passages wind through the skull, significantly increasing their surface area. This enlarged space is populated by millions of odor receptors.
Complicated, crazy straw, tortuous nasal passageway that went from the nostrils, made several loops through the snout before it went down into the throat.
Ankylosaurus's super-sensitive nose can pick up a carnivore over 2 miles away.
If it could smell a Tyrannosaurus coming, it's got an early warning, and so it can begin to react appropriately.
For a hungry T-Rex, it means a meal has simply vanished into thin air. Never underestimate a vegetarian. Perciform and Sauroposeidon rely on the numbers to spot predators before they attack. Ankylosaurus has an armory of senses to keep carnivores at bay. But no matter how clever an herbivore may be, no matter how many tools they have at the ready, sometimes their number is up. For a plant eater, life during the Cretaceous is life on a wanted poster. Carnivores' weapons and attack strategies grow deadlier with every generation. Herbivores are constantly playing catch-up, evolving new ways to defend themselves, growing to mammoth proportions, developing armor for protection, finding safety in numbers, or deciding the time is right to get the hell out of Dodge. For herbivores, keeping one step ahead of the competition is a never-ending struggle.
T-Rex was designed by natural selection to overcome those formidable defenses.
Under the cover of darkness, a Tyrannosaurus Rex is on the hunt. Its quarry, Triceratops, 6 tons of muscle loaded with deadly defensive weapons, all mounted on an armored skull that can turn on a dime. But Triceratops has one major disadvantage. Its night vision is no match for a tyrannosaur. T-Rex goes for the kill. Still, taking on a healthy adult Triceratops means facing long odds. That is, if a T-Rex is acting alone.
Probably the only way a T-Rex could successfully and safely bring down Triceratops is by having at least one other individual Tyrannosaur that would ambush it from the back while the one in front is keeping the attention of the Triceratops.
Working as a team, the ultimate carnivore delivers a killing blow. For the T-Rex, it's a veritable feast. This battle plays out over and over again, sparking evolutionary changes in carnivores. Then in turn, plant eaters up the ante.
You can look at it as sort of almost an arms race between the herbivores and the carnivores. And the herbivores protect themselves. The carnivores changed in order to attack and be able to have enough power to kill the herbivores.
The arms race between predator and prey continues for millions of years. Carnivores develop some of the most effective killing tools seen in Earth's history. Prehistoric plant eaters evolved defenses simply unmatched today. Perciform, with a call so powerful, it's a dangerous weapon. Sauroposeidon, bigger than any land creature we'll ever see. Ankylosaurus, with a club for a tail and armor built like a bulletproof vest. And Triceratops, the big bruiser with a skull strong enough to stop the jaws of a T-Rex.
All these Cretaceous plant eaters with their complicated apparatus, they're all much more sophisticated. So we're beginning to understand that we woefully underestimated the inner and outer life of the vegisaur.
Plant-eating dinosaurs were tough enough to survive from the Triassic period to the Cretaceous, more than 165 million years. Even today, the battle between herbivores and carnivores rages on. But it's this brutal war for survival